Hi, good eve, everyone of the current Denton Wesley students Facebook group. That's where I'm posting this thing, this sermon, if we might call it such. Um, and I'm posting it here as a deliberate decision because I really want to be able to be vulnerable with y'all. I want to be able to share some honesty from my being, and I want to be able to trust that it is among people that I trust that I share it with. This so I can so it can be consistent with the kind of message that I would be sharing with you if we were all together gathered at the Wesley um, rather than a part like this. And now also just a quick housekeeping thing, so everyone's aware. While I'm recording this right now, a dog is in the ICU. My girlfriend just took our dog there, and to the vet. So I'm waiting for text messages. I might be checking my phone throughout this if something comes up because that would be a bad thing. That would be the cherry of all bad things on top of all the other things. And I'm sorry to, gosh, speak so. Um, is anyone else having a hard time maintaining the balance of like optimism and just like shit, like things are really bad in a way that we've never expected them to be. We've had to adapt to all kinds of things so quickly, so fast, and make so many sacrifices that we never planned. Like that were never on our radar of like, oh, sure, I'll forego my college graduation if it means that I, can help my grandma's health or whatever. Like that's the like we never thought that this was a decision that we were going to have to make. We were like, well, I don't understand how me going to my college graduation affects my grandmother's health at all, And now we're just like in that situation where we're dealing with so many lost things, and so I got to graduate last semester. That was a really big deal for me. I was in school for almost 7 years, um, and God, I can. There is no way. There is like I am committing this to an absolute certainty of all possible outcomes. There is no chance I would have graduated if it hadn't been for the support of the Wesley. I mean that. Like, very, very truly do I mean that. But I'm it didn't strike me until like today when I'm like prepping to do this sermon with everyone now that this sermon, this kind of like what have I learned at the Wesley sermon is like a big cap on like I was at the Wesley for like 5 years, and it has my heart. Truly, I am very attached to that place. I'm very attached to the goings on of the place. I'm very attached to everyone that's at the place. It has been a constant in my life, like that, like has not existed anywhere else outside of it. And I wasn't necessarily like looking forward, I don't like not expecting like pomp and circumstance of uh, like like to give myself any like pat on the back, but just like as like be able to like like have that ease of mind where we can like look at things and say like we're all in good hands, we're all in this together, we all have each other, and while we have that, what can be amiss? And so, and I'm really lamenting for the we always do something at the end of the year what do we call it? I think we've called it West Fest before. It's had different names over the years, but there are some things like in this like virtual world that we're doing that are great, but some things just like can't. There's truly no substitute. Like our the way we socialize with each other happens like at so many different sensory levels. Like not just the sight and the sound like that we're getting through Zoom, but we're literally inhabiting space among each other. We're moving the airwaves around as we speak with each other. We're catching each other's scents. We're getting to be expressed with like some of our hand signs, and then there's the atmosphere of like just like imagine like we're in like the lobby, like the gathering area in the Westlands, like, and everyone's having so many like great conversations, and you really have to not like yell, but you have to speak at that like that party voice, man, to be able to like talk with each other like that's it's so hard to get that kind of like social dynamic, the momentum that's required for it. It's really hard to get like through this. So, anyways, I'm sorry. I'm gonna move on to the more sermonish part of this. I look at the timer. I see what time it is. I see what time I spent talking about that. But anyways, thank you all for tuning in to this, for looking at this however you're looking at it. My name is Sean, and I am the worship leader at the Denton Wesley Foundation. And I am the worship leader at the Denton Wesley Foundation because of everything that the Denton Wesley Foundation has done for me. Disclaimer, I don't know if it's right to call on this a sermon. A sermon honestly does not feel honest to me right now. I could not type out everything that has been laid upon me over the last 5 years and like consolidate it to like this bit, this bit, and this bit. I have lessons that I have to share with you, things that I have learned, parts of my story, my experience to share with you, but somehow um, the traditional structure of sermon and like fitting myself and my message to that does not feel honest. So I'm gonna just like talk, I need to spill some shit. I just need to. It's been so hard not being around people, and I need to just be able to talk about the stuff that I need to talk about. And so I'm just gonna talk about it. And this brings me maybe to like the first thing that I've learned from Wesley: how to talk. Um, if you know, you might think like that's crazy. He always Sean. He always knows how to talk. He's a talking kind of guy. That's one of the things he does. Um, but so where I was when I came to the Wesley, like my church background, I went to. Well, I guess let's do all of it. I grew up Catholic. Uh, but like my attendance with the Catholic Church was very tied to my stepmom, and we didn't get along, her and I, and so when when she left the picture of our family, we stopped like going to church, and then just like needing to feel something, I went to like one of those like super hip non-denominational churches that they have in you know kind of like the Hillsongish the sort of thing going on, and that was my first like exposure to church where I had like any kind of ownership of it myself. But it like both of those things, both my experience like as a child, like at the child level of Catholic Church, and with this other really kind of I'm going to call it patriarchal sort of like hip church that goes on, where it's like like males in leadership is like really relies a lot on like biblical authority. Everyone, here's here's a here's a paradox that I don't understand. They call themselves seekers. They're like, we're really seeking. The whole church thing doesn't jive with us quite, but they rely so heavily on like on biblical authority, and really like the authority of the pastor. That doesn't give them like that freedom of like to feel like we're like looking for anything other than what we've had between, like traditional Orthodox church folks forever. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, but I did come from that tradition. I did really adhere. I say adhere. I consider that like a part of my spiritual identity is like part of like this Christian thing where it felt wrong for me to ever like go to a denomination like the Methodist Church and put that kind of label onto my faith because it's like so much broader than that. But anyways, um, we're talking about no. My affliction though with that kind of rigidity in my spiritual thinking and my spiritual style, where it was like very much like kind of like a 1, 2, 3, like I know that Jesus loves me, I know that God's great, I know that Jesus died. Like my faith was like a list of like here are the facts that I believe, and that's kind of what it was, and that left me with a deficit of being able to honestly talk about what faith was. Like, what about these facts? What about any of it? You know? And so, but they remain so. But they remain facts. And if any thing like thought like popped in my head or came about in a conversation that was any kind of challenging to these facts that made up my faith, then like that really shut me down, and I didn't know how to talk about that. I didn't know how to talk about anything um, like that. That it because of that style of faith that I had learned that I had um, adhered to, that had me missing out on a very human connection point of what faith is and is about. It was something that stood in the way of me being able to see my brothers, my sisters, and um, as such, um, to be able to see like other people, other human beings um, as my own like family, as being something that is related to me, as something that is holy and sacred and honorable, rather than cowering and having knee jerk, ugly reactions to anything that stood opposed and, and in a position of threat to my worldview that I had adapted. Um, so these kinds of like conversations, I would say that the lesson um, from the Wesley that that was spoken that gave me these that really started to work at my heart and began to open up me to um, to my fellow um, humans on this planet. One is um, well, listen about uh, reorganizing the way that we thought about the church, not as a place to go to do like what we call like the finished product of like Christianity is like you become a Christian, go to church where the Christians are, but and a hospital metaphor is trite, I think, but I mean, but I see that there's something to it. But this particular metaphor was a dojo, and what a dojo is it's that place of like learning, of being really active with the thing, of doing what it meant to do it. And the idea in that was that there's no place to get to. There is no like sure like you work out like like you kind of like increase like your understanding for yourself of what that means, but there's there is no end to it. There is no natural conclusion, natural end to it. It gets taken wherever it will go, and that's like that kind of like wilderness of it we might call it, um, is like something to be. There's something uncomfortable about that, and it really takes. You can't just know it and do it. It takes a dojo, a place where you go to not expect to be your fully any kind of fully formed anything, but just a place to go and be and not be good at it. Um, that was really important for me. And additionally, kind of like a part of like the same time, I remember also talking about like liturgy in the church and like which is like basically the things that are said together, the letters that we utter together, and things like saying the Our Father, singing hymns together, all that such. Those communal prayer moments. Um, and what really in that about that like that spoke to me so profoundly because of my uh, the Catholic upbringing and because of my bad relationship with my stepmom that I have like a trauma about that I don't want to go revisit things that remind me much of her. Like I was really like off put by these things initially, and so what uh, what was said about that though is when we say, for example, the Our Father, any given person might not be might not necessarily believe every word of that may not believe every word of that's spoken, but together, if you put the whole of it all together, there is someone that believes in every different line of that. And so when we put that whole church together, there becomes a more complete understanding of what that is, and it can be very unique to whatever congregation that is um, that that is gathered saying those things. And so that's something that gave me a lot of appreciation for um, really how much we need and rely on having others to share our faith and our thoughts with. So that's something really important, and then that links into this idea that we talk about a lot at the Wesley of praxis, which is like actionable, like the faith that you put to action. Um, whenever we reach like the crossroads at the Wesley of like noticing some injustice, for example, this happened to me this semester since I graduated, where I went to like a high school. I saw what I thought not what I think. It's an injustice. We saw an injustice. I was really shaken by it, and I went to tell like Haley to like help like unload, unpack. Like that's bad. That's rough. That's not equitable education at all, and the long term implications of it are just bad. And a part of that unpacking process that we always get to as goes with anything, is what do we do? Um, Prayers are something that we do with our hands and with our feet. That's something else I learned at the Wesley. Um, this like combination of having prayer with our hands and with our feet and actionable things. If we should be praying about something, then we should be doing something about that. So that's there's really I can't say too much about like every all these like lessons that I have unpacked at the Wesley, but the biggest things that I've taken away from it are absolutely the human connections that have come from it. I have friends that I count as family. Um, Truly, like I am so much more uh, able to be much more honest with my friends than I am with my own family. And I say that as a as an orphan. Um, I've lost both my parents, and one of them I did lose while I was attending the Wesley. And a phrase that I heard recently about orphans is that an orphan is akin to all, um, which sort of which was really important for me to hear, especially right now in isolation. I've been feeling socially isolated in a lot of ways, not having reliable, the most basic backbone structures of my family to be able to talk to. Um, so that phrase, an orphan is akin to all, flips around this idea that an orphan is someone without family. But it's in fact that the relationships that we have with people change. We become attached to people like they are our family. And so that is truly, when I say that the Wesley is a family to me, that's what I mean by it. Um, there is there are other people that are I don't know. The Wesley's a family to me, and I mean that very sincerely from the bottom of my heart. And I can't imagine how I could have dealt with so many of the things that I've dealt with without the Wesley being there and a part of it. As for a theological note that I want to leave this out on, end this on. I wrote this quote down. I was trying to process some of my own thoughts about it. I wrote, I'm not sure if there is a God, but I do think that there are things that are worth calling God. Above anything, the Wesley has given me the tools to be able to think and to communicate well and to be able to operate on these paths of self-discovery so that I can be true and honest with myself and with people and lead myself to the most honest light that I can know of. And that, in all cases, is love. And I think that, and that humans, us, each other, the human spirit is a part of the natural conclusion of what that is. So I'm gonna close this. Thank you, everyone, for the light that you've been to me during my time at the Wesley. I can't have asked for anyone better than to spend my college years with. The debt that I have to everyone cannot be repaid, as so many of our debts are, but we can always just keep passing it on. So um, I love the thing. I'm going to miss the thing. And I know that everyone is going to do incredible things with this organization moving forward. And they're going to bring so much light and so much love into so many people's lives. And I cannot wait to hear what incredible things that y'all do with that in the future. I'll be in touch. I'll always be around. I'll always be here. But damn, I'm going to miss y'all. Good night, everyone.